Suggested skill levels are 60 plus attack, 90 plus strength, and 70 plus range. This is my recommended setup if you plan to use melee to kill Spindel. The most important part about this setup is the charged Vigor's mace. Without the mace, this boss wouldn't be easy to kill at all with melee for 60 attack Pier. I typically put 2k ether in my mace to charge it, but you can do less if you're not comfortable risking more in the wilderness. I also recommend bringing along a Dragon Warhammer as a spec weapon so that you can lower Spindel's defense, making the kills quicker if the spec hits. I recommend bringing along one 4-dose Divine Super Combat Potion or a normal Super Combat Potion, along with 6 Prayer Pots, 1 Stamina Pot, and a Looting Bag. The Anti-Venom is optional here as the boss does not poison you. I only recommend bringing it in case PKers come. It's also good to use a Charged Glory here, a Ring of Wealth, or Seed Pod since it's under 30 wild you can just telly out if needed. With this melee setup, the 4 items you will keep on death if you're unskulled are your Dragon Warhammer, your Vigorous Chain Mace, you will lose your ether if you are PK'd, however if you die to Spindel and not a PKer, your ether will be in your gravestone outside the cave, your Lightbearer Ring, and your Infernal Cape or Fire Cape. Also as a tip, please don't forget to part your cape just in case. This is my recommended setup if you plan to use range to kill Spindel. The most important part about this setup is the charged Webweaver bow. You can also use a charged crossbow if you want if you can't afford a Webweaver bow. I typically put 2k ether in the bow, but feel free to put as much ether as you're comfortable with risking in the wilderness. The Webweaver's special attack is really good to use here as it can do a lot of damage to the boss, and the special attack only takes 50% to use. I recommend bringing along one 4-dose Divine Ranging Pot or a normal Ranging Pot, along with 6 Prayer Pots, 1 Stamina Pot, a Looting Bag, and a Charged Glory. The Charged Glory is for a teleport out under 30 wild. A Seed Pod would be the best to use for this setup. The Anti-Venom is optional here as the boss does not poison you. I only recommend bringing it in case PKers come. With this range setup, the 4 items you will keep on death if you're unskulled are your Webweaver bow. Again, you will lose your ether if you are PK'd. However, if you die to Spindel and not a PKer, your ether will be inside your gravestone outside the cave. Your Necklace of Anguish, your Lightbearer Ring, and your God D'hide Chaps. There are a few different ways you can get to Spindel. The easiest way to get there is just to run from the Ferox Enclave. From the Ferox Enclave, all you need to do is go out the north gate into the wilderness and run past the graveyard and go east once you reach the Green Dragons. From the Green Dragons, you will head to the ruins located around 30 Wilderness. Spindel's cave entrance is located at the northeast part of the ruins. Another way to get to Spindel is by teleporting to Carolanger, or using a Carolanger teleport tab, or teleporting through your POH. Once you teleport to Carolanger, you will land in the graveyard just north of the Ferox Enclave and south of the ruins. Just run north out of the graveyard, avoid the dragons, and make your way to Spindel's cave. If you are meleeing Spindel, you'll have to pray melee the majority of the fight. I recommend staying as close to the boss as possible so that you don't get hit by a range or mage attack. While meleeing, you'll also want to avoid Spindel's web attack and not stand in the web on the ground when it lands. The web will land in a 7x5 square. This is what the web attack looks like. It looks like a light blue spider ball flying through the air. If you stand in the web, it does rapid damage to you and drains your prayer and run energy. If you are ranging, Spindel will always start off by attacking with range and spawning 2 spiderlings. Spindel will do 4 range attacks in a row, then move around the room, and then do another 4 range attacks. After the second set of the 4 range attacks, Spindel will move around the room again and then start attacking with mage for 4 attacks. On the first set of the mage attacks, during the 3rd attack that she actually throws, Spindel will shoot her web attack at you. You will need to avoid this by simply moving away from it. Do not stand in the web as it will do damage to you, while also draining your prayer and run energy at the same time. After the first set of mage attacks are over, Spindel will then move somewhere else in the room and then do another 4 magic attacks. Spindel will repeat this attack pattern by going back and forth between range and mage until she's dead. It's easier to think of the pattern like this: 4 range attacks, move, 4 range attacks, move, 4 magic attacks, move, 4 magic attacks, move, rinse and repeat. When you first attack Spindel, whether it's with range or melee, the boss will spawn 2 spiderlings. These spiderlings are very hard to see on the ground, and they need to be killed immediately because every time they hit you, they drain 1 prayer point per hit. However, I do have a method to make these spiderlings easier to see on the ground. If you're using RuneLite, you can highlight NPCs by searching for the NPC indicator and going into the settings. Once you're in the settings, scroll down to NPCs to highlight and type Spindel's Spiderling into the box. Now they'll be highlighted on the ground to make them easier to see when you're fighting the boss. For those worried about getting PK'd and have an alt account, you can leave your alt account outside of the cave to be able to see if any PKers log in while you're inside the cave on your other account. This will give you the advantage in being able to teleport out before you're attacked. One thing that I always recommend that you bring with you is a looting bag. Spindel drops a lot of different items that will take up space in your inventory very quickly. Spindel also drops a lot of resupplies such as super combat pots, range pots, super restores, and food, which can keep you there for a long trip. Another tip I have for you is before you go in the wilderness, turn your PK skull prevention on so you don't get skull tricked in the wilderness and lose all your items. You can do this by going into the wrench, clicking the PK skull prevention, and then changing your player attack options to hidden. This way, you can't accidentally attack anybody and you can't skull. Another tip that I have is that if you stand in the middle of the cave when Spindel is spawning, you'll be able to get a free hidden as he climbs down his web. You can do this with both range and melee. You can bring thralls along with you if you want to, however I don't bring them due to the amount of space the runes take up in my inventory. I know you can put the runes in a rune pouch to save some inventory spaces, but I don't think it's worth it because you have to parch the rune pouch. If you don't parch it and you die, you will lose your rune pouch, so I don't think it's a good investment, but feel free to bring it if you want. And that was my 60 attack 1 defense peer guide on how to kill Spindel. I hope this guide has given you some clarity on what items to bring and how to kill the boss. If you have found a better method to kill Spindel, please feel free to let us know in the comments below. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more guides like this one. Thank you for watching, good luck on your pet grind, and good luck on your Voidwaker grind, and I hope to see you in the next guide.